Hello everyone. In this segment of the video, I'm gonna explain my birthing complication with regards to pelvic bleeding. When I discovered I was pregnant, it was like always I used to think I'm pregnant, and when I used to check the pregnancy test, it was always negative, and I was planning for the pregnancy, but it never happened. Then last year in November, like my mom had stroke, I went to India, I came back to Australia, I totally forgot about pregnancy and everything. And in the month of Jan, it was Jan 4th, um, I was working, I work in aged care, so I was helping a resident, like tying their shoes and everything. Then I could feel like a stretch in my, like you feel like a stretch in your tummy, and straight away I knew it could be pregnancy. So that evening I went out with my friend, and we bought a pregnancy test, and I tested it in the shopping mall because I was so desperate to know what's going on. And when I tested it in the shopping mall, um, the result didn't come up. Like it was not the digital one; it was the normal one. It went blank, and so I just threw the pregnancy test, and I bought a couple more pregnancy tests, and I went home and I tested it with a digital one, and it said yes plus. Then I went and bought another pregnancy test which said 3 to 4 weeks, and I was like, oh my god, I'm pregnant. But the problem was, even though the pregnancy test came positive, I was bleeding. And I went to my, like, it was my period's time, I was bleeding. And I went to the doctor. She did a urine test, it was positive. She said because I was bleeding, she set up ultrasound, and I was praying, guys. I was praying, and when I went to the scan, um, I think we saw the gestational sac. There was nothing inside it, so I think they wrote something like it's not yet a viable pregnancy or something like that. And then I went back to work. Like if anybody is working in aged care, they know depending on the area that you work, your work could be a pretty much little bit of heavy lifting. And like some girls breeze through their pregnancy at work and they don't have any issues, and some people probably whose um, pelvic muscles are not strong, or I don't know what's the problem, um, they struggle through it. So I was the one struggling. And the next time I went to work, I started bleeding. I went to an emergency, and again the next day they sent me for a scan, and they said, I think this was within 1 week. I found out 4 weeks. This was within 1 week. Again, I was bleeding. So again, we had another ultrasound scan, and I think the next time I went to the ultrasound scan, the sac, inside the sac, there was a little, like a pea kind of something which was flickering on and off, on and off. There it was, my baby is still alive. And after, so I had repeated bleeding like this, but this bleeding is like traces of blood in your panty. But every time I went and got it checked, and when it was 13 weeks, I had such a major bleeding. It was like a tap water. It was pouring down, and I rushed to the bathroom, and I just washed myself and cleaned myself. And then I called the ambulance, and those guys were like, please don't go to the toilet. I was like, oh my god, I already been to the toilet. So they asked me to lie down and put a towel underneath, um, because they want to know if any birthing material of the baby comes out, it shouldn't go into the toilet. So they want to know if anything happens. So if any of them are having major bleeding like that, try not try not to go to the toilet. um, there is one thing, guys, like if your body triggers the bleeding and if the baby has to come out, there is no way in the medical field they are able to help us. So I was crying so much. I was praying like Psalm 91, Psalm 23. I was praying divine mercy. I prayed like every prayer that I knew. Um, so I was taken to the hospital, and um, in the hospital, they tested me, and um when they tested me, they tested my sugar levels as well. And my sugar levels were 27, and they were like, from when are you walking around with such high sugar level? It's very dangerous for the baby. And other than my sugar level, they checked my bleeding, and they had to put a speculum and check if your cervix is open. And they told me, guys, the cervix is open and the baby can come out anytime. And I was crying so much. And I called my boyfriend, who's the baby's father, to come and be with me, because I'm from India in Australia. I did not know anyone here, did not know any friend here. So I asked him to come, but he did not come. So I called my work colleague who was also pregnant, and she came to me. And by then the doctors came and told me that this is miscarriage, and I was crying so badly. So they left me because they couldn't see me cry, so they said they left me to cry and they wanted to come back later. So when my friend came and she was with me, the doctor initially said, okay, we will speak to the gynecologist, or and we will get back. And then when my friend was there, they said there are still a very small amount of hope, um, that it could be just the clots that is coming out. Then when my friend was there with me, they told me there is a small hope, so they scheduled a scan the next day and consultation with the doctor the day after. So the scan lady, she did not tell me what's going on. So when I went for the scan, I was alone, guys, and everyone were like, "Do you have somebody to go with you?" And I did not have anyone. And by then, I phoned my workplace to tell I wouldn't be able to come to work because this is the complication I'm going through. And my boss arranged like a pastoral care lady to come with me because they didn't want me to be alone. And my friend who was pregnant, she came, and eventually the scan was done. And then I went and met the doctor, who said my baby is still safe. And the doctor said the emergency doctor shouldn't have diagnosed it so quickly without doing the ultrasound. My baby was still safe. She was hanging in there. And because my sugar levels were high, they sent me to another hospital called John Hunter Hospital. And this hospital had all the facilities for like early pregnancy care with complications. And I was hospitalized, I don't know, nearly. If you can see on the wall, you can see all the bands I put. So these were the bands. I think there are some 6, 7 bands there. These bands were put. Started collecting after my uh, some. I think after my 13 weeks or something. I was hospitalized nearly 10 to 12 times. Every time it was like pelvic bleeding. That 13 week was my last pelvic bleeding. And one thing I have to tell you guys, if you have pelvic bleeding, try to avoid sex. um, there is some kind of hormones that a body releases which relaxes a muscle, and that can cause contraction and stuff like that. So just speak to your doctors. If you are in that position, if you can avoid sex, avoid it. Even like, touching yourself or anything that pleasures you, you need to avoid it. So I was one of the person who couldn't have any sexual relationship during my pregnancy. And yeah, and after that I struggled a lot with sugar levels. I was hospitalized many times, sometimes for high sugar, sometimes for low sugar. And in my week 18, uh, I was supposed to come for 20-week scan, but in week but because I had hospitalized for 18 weeks, they said let's do the 20-week scan in 18 weeks. And that time they found out my cervix was so short, it was only zero point 0.8 mm. I think a normal healthy cervix during pregnancy needs to be like 4 centimeters, and mine was only zero point 0.8 mm. And doctors asked me, do you want to leave it like that or do you want to put a cerclage in? And they said when we do the cerclage we can break your water. There's risk of infection, there is still risk of you losing the baby, you need to take a call. Like if it's India, the doctor will tell you, hey, do your cerclage. But yeah, the doctors give you an option, you are the one choosing it. So I did not have any medical background. So I anyway, leaving it as is as good as losing the baby. So I decided to put the cerclage in, and I was googling everywhere. Is there any woman who has such a short cervix? I could barely find people, but do not lose hope, guys. Like my friend in the hospital, she had an open cervix from 23 weeks, but she delivered the baby at 32 weeks, and there's still hope. And I had my baby with zero point 0.8 mm at 18 weeks, but they told me I cannot go back to work. So since 18 weeks till now, I'm still not working. And yeah, like the doctor said, you can do normal stuff. I did the things around the work and things for my dogs, and I have two large breed dogs. I've done things around the work, but please take as much as rest as possible. Um, do not run on a treadmill. It's not the time to lose weight, or it's not the time to look good. So just take care of yourself. Yeah, I went through that, and um, pretty much, guys, I had all this complications. Like, I didn't have the high blood pressure, but other than that, I had swollen feet. Um, I had most of the complications. Like, at the moment, I can't remember. But yeah, I delivered the baby at 36 week. I went for a normal checkup, and they said your water is broken, you can't go home. And I did not have anything packed for the delivery. And I asked my boyfriend to bring me stuff, and he bought all the wrong stuff. I actually selected like a dress that I have to put on the baby to take a picture. All that didn't happen, guys. But anyway, throughout the pregnancy, the doctors were scaring me. You're gonna have a stillbirth. You're gonna have a stillbirth, because my sugar levels were super high. I was on 1,000 units of insulin. I was on 1,000 micrograms of um, metformin. Like normally people have insulin like 20 or 30 units or 10 units, and they still think it's something bad. And I was on 1,000 units. I had to take and I was on two types of insulin, long lasting and short. I was on Novo Rapid, and I was on Lantus initially, but the Lantus was not fixing my insulin level. And then they put me on another one which is similar to Lantus, but it's more concentrated. It's called Tojovet, and I was on that 1,000 units, guys. Everyone, even the midwives, all were like, I've never seen anyone with this high insulin. So that insulin made me gain a lot of weight. My pre-pregnancy weight was 78 kgs, and I increased up to 107 by the time I gave birth to my baby. Now postpartum 2 months now, and I'm at 80 kgs now. So once I delivered my baby, my insulin went low. My sugar level, yeah, my BGL went low. My baby's BGL went down to point 0.1, uh, zero point 0.1 at birth, and she had breathing issues. So immediately, they didn't even give the baby in my hand. The NICU people took the baby away to the NICU. And yeah, I don't complain, guys, because my baby is still alive. Um, and I suffered depression during my pregnancy because every time they told me I'm gonna have stillbirth, I'm gonna have stillbirth. So I was working. So throughout the pregnancy, the HNE team was working along with me, and I'm still suffering postpartum depression. Another reason I'm suffering postpartum is my boyfriend left me with my 2 months old baby, and he's gone ahead to marry another woman. I don't know how people can do that, but yeah, that happened to me. Like, I'm not choose to be or depressed, but the life situations have made things like that for me. And um yes, guys, like, I came through a lot of complications. There is always hope. You can do it. There are situations like, if the nurse wouldn't have discovered short cervix at 18 weeks and I would have gone back to work, I would have lost my baby. So everyone is a mother. A mother who delivers a baby is a mother. A mother who's conceived is a mother. A mother who loses the baby through miscarriage is also a mother. A mother who aborts a baby is also a mother. I just pray that every woman gets a strength to go through whatever situation they are facing. And I just want to give hope to all ladies. Um, I'm 37 and I never thought I'll be pregnant. So I thought I would never have a baby, and I always wanted to. So, no matter what situation a woman is going through, I just pray that God strengthen you with your journey. Everyone has their own journey, and nobody should judge anyone for their journey. Take care, everyone. Bye bye.